and welcome back. It's so good to have everybody with us today. I have two very special guests with me, Wendy Campbell and Geroge Jage. Wendy and George I met actually virtually, just like we're talking right now, during COVID, when they had launched their brand new show, MJ Unpacked. And the first one, the inaugural show, is in April of last year, right? No, I'm 2021. I'm losing track of time. Thank you.
October 2021. It happens to us all, Dan, at our age. So, you know.
And it is by far one of my favorite trade shows to go to. And I thought it'd be great to have you guys on, just because COVID, we're coming out of COVID now, and the world of sales and marketing and networking has changed. It used to be in the old days, I'd very much just had a dinner appointment. I'd get on a plane, go to New York, have dinner, maybe go see a few other people, spend 1 or 2 nights in there, and go home. And that type of business interaction travel is over. It doesn't happen very often anymore, for me anyway. Sometimes it happens, but it's the rare exception rather than the rule, which is how I'm 2 million miles on Delta, which is how I built my business, is doing exactly what I just described. So when we started doing Zoom, it was a big change for me. And then the very first trade show, the very first coming out for me, was your MJ Unpacked in Las Vegas in 2021. And it was spectacular from the point of view, because everybody had been locked up for so long.
Sure.
And it was very exciting to come out and see everybody. And so we're in a new world now. And so I want to talk with you guys. There's so many trade shows. It's clear to me that trade shows are going to take a more prominent role in business sales and business networking, especially in the cannabis space, which is why I want to talk to you folks to really chat and figure out what this landscape is going to look like. Because there are lots of choices to go to. I got the list of all the trade shows, and I start clicking on them, and some are $25 to get in, some are free, some are, and they're all over the place geographically. And one of the things that impressed me about you guys is you check out all the other folks out there. So it's important to understand in the world of networking, where trade shows are going to take more of a role, a more prominent role. Help us understand the landscape, because you guys are out there looking at it all the time. So help me figure out, what do I make heads or tails from this?
Well, first of all, Dan, you're not the first person to tell me that I'm out there. But anyways, listen, in trade shows, yes, there's kind of this resurgence of trade shows, but let's be honest here. I mean, trade shows have always been a catalyst for commercial success for any industry. And I mean, these, going back to, trading markets, trading camels before Christ, in the Middle East. I mean, that was a trade show. So they've always been just a critical, and an important opportunity for business transactions. And part of the reason why face-to-face events are so important is that, yes, we have video technology now and the world's evolving, but to really get a deal done, you have to establish a level of trust and respect in that relationship before you're going to enter into a business transaction. You can only really do that when you're sitting across from somebody, have a chance to read their body language, and really be able to see them. I mean, Wendy goes to a ton of trade shows. She loves trade shows. I love trade shows. I made a comment the other day that I tell people I'm in the trade show industry, but I'm really a circus operator. It's really about, how do you bring people into the tent, ooh and ah them, and have them walk away going, man, I'm going to tell 10 friends about this, and I'm coming back next time that circus is in town. And it is a crowded landscape, not just in trade show world, but in the cannabis trade show world. And, having built the biggest trade show at MJ BizCon, back in 2014 to 2017, at that time and at that moment, kind of, understanding the needs of the market of the moment, which is one of our kind of guiding stars of what we do here at MJ Unpacked, is really, everybody needed to figure out how to stand up their retail, their manufacturing operation, their cultivation operation. Like there wasn't solutions out there, because we hadn't done this legally in ever, in the cannabis industry. So the supply side of the industry, the ancillary products, services, technologies were really super important back then, and certainly facilitated a lot of the growth of MJ Biz when I ran it. It was the fastest growing trade show in the entire United States the years that I ran it. But kind of fast forwarding from that, and like 2017 to 2020, I kind of mark as this gap where, it was really the rise of the MSO. We saw everybody rushing to go out on the Canadian Stock Exchange. Wow, public markets are going to accept us as cannabis people now. Like, this is really getting exciting. That was a short bridge for a lot of people, because there wasn't a lot of liquidity up there. but certainly facilitated the rise of the MSOs. And you also saw this kind of frontiersmanship kind of approach where new states were coming online and everybody was scrambling to acquire more licenses and increase their footprint, and everything else. Obviously, the pandemic, provided a boost in sales because cannabis was an essential business. But what happened in the last couple of years and what's happening right now, which is I think the most important part and probably the third of the fourth kind of eras that I see in cannabis, is that this is the rise of the brand. Almost exclusively the relationship with the consumer has been with the retailer, because you're going to go to the store that you feel most comfortable at, and you're going to choose the products that they've opted for you. You're not really getting a choice of 20 different gummy brands. You've got one or two. Obviously you've got flower, and people, brand is tough with flower because it's really more about the strain than it is the manufacturer. But we're seeing that change, that, manufacturers are really building reputation and trust of their cultivation practices, that people become brand loyal to those cultivators, become brand loyal to the gummies, the tinctures, and everything else. And this is truly where like wealth creation is going to happen in cannabis, the same way it did in alcohol, pharmacy, tobacco. I mean, it's Marlboro, it's Coca-Cola, it's Pfizer, it's Seagram's, Bacardi, and this is kind of, I think, the third and second last leg of what we're going to see the growth in, and the last is going to be on-premise consumption. We're seeing the early stages of consumption lounges being modeled out, from everything from BYOC to like full dispensary / consumption lounges, side by side, where you can buy the product and then consume it on site. But alcohol is $250 billion, and almost 50% of that is on-premise consumption. So as we continue to grow the industry in the category, I think we're going to see that people are going to go to lunch and they're not going to have a two martini lunch. They're going to have a Granddaddy Purple and Coke and lunch, and it's going to be mixed right there for them. They might have a cannabis wine or a cannabis beer.
It chills just thinking about the lack of stigma with the way you rolled off your tongue.
Stigma's real.
There's no stigma to the 2 martini lunch.
Yeah, but and we can get into a little bit of how we've really kind of redesigned the trade show model around MJ Unpacked, and really looked at the things that people don't like and how we can better meet the needs, how we can provide a more cost efficient model. Wendy's going to trade shows all over the place, and we're in the relationship business in cannabis. I mean, maybe it's a holdover from the days of us being drug dealers, that you had a relationship with your drug dealer, right? It wasn't a transaction you did online. It wasn't when you did it over the phone. It was when you did in person.
Well, that's one of the things that it struck me when we got into the cannabis space 5-6 years ago. And I joke that in a typical pharma trade show or a call center trade show that I've attended hundreds of them in Las Vegas, and I've done the circuit, I tell the story quite often, and people in cannabis all give me bobbleheads when I tell this analogy. But in the traditional trade show business, you go to the booth, you exchange cards, and what do you do, and tell me about your services, blah, 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 blah. And then you see each other at the cocktail party that night, and that's when you start to ask about personal things, and you start to ask about kids and sports. And in cannabis, it's totally opposite. It totally flipped the model. People don't want to talk business with you unless they trust you first.
Yep.
And I think it is a throwback, George, to your comment about the drug dealing days. They're going to feel you out before they do business with you.
I want to make sure you're not a cop.
Snitch on me. And that's a really interesting realization. And that's one of the things I love about MJ Unpacked and the community that you've created is, the cannabis community in general is really very much built on trust. And relationships, and as we get out of the nascent business, it's becoming clearer and clearer that those relationships are more and more important as more and more bad players start to pop up. It's very important for us in the good community to talk with each other and share those bad experiences so we can avoid them. Not bad people, bad experiences. I don't want to personalize it.
I do have the website www.bongwaterawards.com, so maybe in the future we can kind of create a Darwin Awards thing where people can post stories about bad actors.
That's a great idea, actually. I kind of like that.
You did that with that blacklist, and that kind of didn't go very well.
No. So, Wendy, tell us about what you do in the world. I mean, you're the master networker, and that's what I love about hanging out with you, because I could just, at any trade show, because you're at all the trade shows, because you're vice president.
Brother, a lot, don't we?
I just park myself next to you and just kind of let the world come to me. So how did you get to that point where you know everybody?
Tenacity. No, and being everywhere, right? And being open to hearing, asking the right questions, being interested in who they are and what they do and what their role is in their organization. And I love brands. I'm a CPG girl from,
Right.
way back in the day. So the excitement that George positioned as of where we are as an industry and where we're growing, when I met George back in 2018, I saw that vision, right? And so when I'm a flower girl, right? I was the dealer. I was the hang out, smoke weed, and it was a consumption lounge way back in 1993.
Right. Right.
So the trajectory of the product development and evolution, it continues to be mind-blowing for me.
Mind-blowing for me. Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I agree with George 100%, 120%. This is the rise of the brand, because as a nascent business, and it drives me crazy that we have brands like Alaska Thunderfuck.
We can also go to dinner and I can take a little Crystal Light sugar pack, pour it in my drink, and have a nice buzz while I'm having my meal now.
That's right. I do think it's the rise of the brand. And my favorite line from one of our board of advisors, Craig Binkley, is a Coke guy, the ultimate branding company. They sell brown sugar water that's fizzy. How'd they build this empire? They did it with branding, and Craig
and cocaine. Let's not mistake this. Let's not forget that they did help build.
There was nicotine wasn't available yet. Starbucks figured that out later, and Dunkin' Donuts, the acceptable ones. But Craig likes to say, just because a product has great price point, great packaging, great distribution, you got the consumers like it tastes good. Congratulations, you're 30% of the way there.
But let's talk about that for a second.
About the brand experience and the brand journey.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, though. I mean, talking about that and like, what is a brand? In our case, a brand very specifically is a consumer packaged goods brand, because that's what our show's focused on, is the CPG products, the retailers. It's the last intersection of commerce before we reach the consumer. And those two, independent groups have to come together to win or lose that consumer. But, brand's about building fandom. It's about creating experience, right? And, I don't want to, steal all the time here. I mean, Wendy, is the one who creates the experience at our event, with all the things that we do. And we're always thinking of new ideas. We're not afraid to take chances. But we've got some cool stuff we've done at our shows. And there's some very specific stuff that we do at our shows that really helps, meet the needs of the market at the moment.
Well, tell us about those specific things. What are some of those specific things? As a user, as an experienced conference goer, both inside and outside cannabis, I've said it before, yours is my favorite show because of the community. But what are some of the things you're doing to try and create that community? What are the specific things that help us network better and meet more people?
Number one is the people that are in the room, right? By curating that audience, having it very focused, that you're going to meet licensed operators and you're going to meet accredited investors. And those licensed operators or accredited investors are going to be managers or above. So I often say it's not Cannabis 101. There are no tire kickers. You're going to be able to have conversations that matter, right? And that connecting point. So if we can remove, how hard it is to find someone that you want to do business with, right? And because you like them, then you can see that there's an opportunity to build trust. And once you get there, you can determine if you want to work with them in some type of collaboration that may lead to a revenue opportunity. Mm-hmm. Where do you meet those people? Right? And how much time, energy, and effort do you put into that? So I always say that we want to remove X number of those steps for you within MJ Unpacked. You come, we'll bring everybody that matters for your business into the room. And then anyone you speak to is going to be able to help you, support you, whether it's professionally, personally, some way, shape, or form. You're going to be able to move forward together with the group of people that we bring to MJ Unpacked. I mean, George, I'm sure you want to add something to that, but that's where it starts, is the people. And then there's all the magic that George and our operations teams create that make it an easy lift and budget friendly and, create that Red Bull moment, if you will. Whatever you're looking for from an objective standpoint, we're going to be able to find a solution that matches that.
Right.
George.
Well, when we launched the first show, I mean, nobody in the industry has done an event like ours where you're really qualifying the audience, to Wendy's point. And when some of our attendees and our exhibitors came out of the first show and they're like, oh my God, every conversation I had was juicy. Like, that's just, makes us tingle. Hairs on the back of our neck stand up. I mean, that's what we want to do. Like, again, taking away all those steps. And the fact that a lot of these other, earlier stage events are still doing classes on how to open up a cannabis retail store. Now, I get it. There's still a lot of people coming into the market. But if you think that you're going to go and take an hour session that's probably going to be delivered by a sponsor who's got some vested interest in you using them to open your retail store, is a complete and utter joke. I mean, like it is one of the toughest businesses out there. It's highly regulated. It's overtaxed. You're have to hire people at minimum wage to be able to run that business, but they have to be 21 years or older. I mean, that's that minimum wage job's typically like the high school, like early adult stage, types of individuals that are filling a lot of those positions. But now it's and then you got to put them in harm's way. Truthfully, I mean, that's a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down. But if you're working retail at a cannabis store, I mean, you're in a dangerous situation because they're robbed very frequently, and people get killed, shot behind the counter just to rob cash, which is a complete and utter failure of our government.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. One of the things I like about the MJ Unpacked scenario.
Like hashtag George is mad about it. Just want to say that.
How do you really feel about that, George? Is the curation, and I'll tell you, we do the call center support for MJ Unpacked, so we field the calls from all these people trying to get into MJ Unpacked that aren't qualified, and it's staggering because we'll have people fill out multiple applications to attend.
Oh yeah.
And we'll vet it out and we'll say, I recognize that name. They applied under a different email before. Wait a second. And so we really do try and keep out the riffraff. And I appreciate it about that because it does make every conversation more likely to be juicy because we're keeping out the people that really aren't qualified, that really shouldn't be there.
Yeah. And there's really kind of three pillars: return on investment. So the people that are investing in sponsorship and exhibit want to meet with people that are relevant to their sales funnel. Return on objectives. And again, having an executive level audience. I mean, the opportunity and the importance of peer-to-peer learning right now, if you're running a licensed operation, is so critical. If you do it alone and you do it in a bubble, good luck. You need to leverage those relationships, find out from your friends what mistakes they made so you can avoid them. Because there's a lot of, pitfalls in this industry, and, it's together with a hell of a lot more than you do alone.
It's different by state, and it's going to be different by market. Yep. And I think that's one of the fun things that I saw happen. Some of the magic I saw happen actually in Las Vegas. I saw it happen right in front of my eyes. Licensed operators from different states talking to each other and learning from each other the different barriers. Well, that barrier applies to me, even though it's not exactly the same. And the solution is the same. So I actually watched that happen in front of me, in front of our booth, and it was really cool.
Yeah. And Wendy, I mean, Wendy's obviously, talking to a lot of our clients on a day-to-day basis. She's amazing. And to the point about being a power networker, like I joke about this, but like if I'm at an event and I send Wendy over, she'll know like the kids' names, the dogs' names, their social security number, what high school they went to, what high school sports are on. I mean, she's amazing as far as being a networker and a question asker and a listener.
That is an asset to the attendees as well. That is an asset. I've said to Wendy many times, I really want to meet this person over there. Could you introduce me? Yeah. Absolutely. She marches me over and said, you got to meet this person. That's part of the personalized service of MJ Unpacked.
Well, and I want to go back to that for a second, actually, the hospitality piece, because when George puts those pillars up there, we have these consultative conversations with our peers in the industry that we are not the only event in town. And so they want to know, I have limited resources, whether it's financial, human, time, energy, effort, and I hear about you, tell me more. I want to understand what's different. So we can explain who we are and what we do and what makes us different. But when we start asking the questions of them, what are your goals? What are your objectives? What is your trade budget shaping up? Do you have two different buckets, one for B2C and one to B2B? What events are you currently being involved with? How has that impacted your business? What are the benefits there? They say, wow, those are great questions. Nobody is asking me those things. And that's really how we help them, is understanding where they want to position themselves. Are they looking to go from a single state operator to a multi-state operator? Do they already have I was talking to someone yesterday from California, and I said, your product would be a hit and, blow up on the East Coast. He's like, I know, we're already in a licensing conversation. We want to launch at MJ Unpacked in New York. So sometimes it's also about timing, right? And understanding a brand that you're working with and understanding new market opportunities for them and asking if those synergies are there. And then that's when the conversation goes further. So that piece of wanting to help the business, and George often says, we're not selling real estate. We're selling an opportunity to help your business thrive and support it and serve it. And we want to know, that's another thing that we do. We do strategic partnership reviews post-event. I want to hear the good, bad, and the ugly, however you want to position it. Did we execute and meet your objectives? Because I remember what we talked about. Did this happen for you? Did this happen for you? So that also builds our community. That builds our loyalty.
It shows a level of maturity of our business that these questions are being asked.
No, and unfortunately, it's the Wendy's point. It's not asked enough, and again, a lot of events look at this as selling, 100 square feet of real estate and a ticket, and not thinking through the psychology of the event and really kind of understanding what are the things that suck, what are the things that are great, right? Like again, filtering that audience, huge, right? Differentiates us from almost every other event in the industry. But even on the sales side, like a lot of times you have a small company with limited resources and you're dealing with a marketing person who's going to make a decision to do our event or not. They're not an operational person, and us sending them a 150-page exhibitor services manual to figure out what they need to do is obnoxious and insulting, to be honest. And when we designed this show, we said, let's take all of that headache out of the way. Not only is it a headache, but it's a huge financial burden. If you buy a $6,000 or $7,000 booth and then have to spend another $10,000 to $15,000 to buy a booth, ship a booth, set up a booth, store a booth, fix a booth,
lose the booth and FedEx on the way there. That's happened.
Time that takes, and then it's obviously you've got multiple influencers at each company. Like, no, this needs to be this way. This needs to be this way. It's maddening for these people. So, again, our solution for an exhibit space. It's completely turnkey. We have graphics included. It's a hardwall shell. You got storage there. You got chairs. So literally you can sign up. We'll send us graphics, fill out your online profile. We'll create leads for you. You'll have a beautiful booth. It's not about who's got the biggest booth or who could spend the most money building a booth that's like, a pop-up for a couple of days, but who's going to have the best value in those conversations with people. And the same thing with our brand showcases. And Wendy can talk about that a little bit more. But again, it's just finding the right solution that meets the needs of the market at the moment.
Well, it's the brand showcase. I call it the exclamation point, and even in the standard exhibit booth for that purpose, because it's an untethered tech-enabled experience. Say what? I spent 10 years of my life in a 10 by 10 with the same guy, my business partner, for 10 years. Like, what? I don't have to stand in the booth. I can have a brand showcase. I can be in the conference programming, learning from my peers, in a networking conversation, in our lobby lounge, strolling around, looking at the other products, interacting with, my competitors and or my friends, and then end up at my brand showcase or end up at, and this is the exclamation point. You've got to know me. Now let me bring you to my display, right? It's just like you're merchandising it in a retail store with the tech enablement, scanning the QR code. They can see all your business information. They can DM you. They can schedule time to meet with you. And to George's point, that's the lead gen. We had a team meeting yesterday with a prospect, someone who doesn't operate from a trade perspective, doing trade events in cannabis. But they have some cannabis clients and they see this as a vertical opportunity and they have solutions for the industry. So I had met with them multiple times and, went through the feature-driven pieces, the value benefit of what we do. And I was bringing them to meet with our operations people. The hair on the back of the neck that George mentioned, as they're talking about location and size and space between pillars and all that stuff that matters. Right. And we have a great team that handles it. Their vice president of business development says, and we'll have the lead capture and we'll be able to set meetings up in advance and on site. I was like, yes. The littlest thing that's like a 30-second to a minute and a half of our conversation and what we do stood out. Yeah. And those are the simple things in addition to the showcases that make it easy for you to do a light lift and still be engaged in the event, but yet are going to provide you multiple benefits at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, New York last year was the energy was palpable.
Wait till this year. Wait till this year.
That's leading up to my question, but because
But
now
I want
that
to
it's online.
Yeah, let me just jump in on what Wendy said though, is it's important to note that MJ Unpacked is the only trade show in the cannabis industry where you're going to see brands from around the entire country, not just, seeing it. And the other part about that I just think is the coolest thing is that brands never have a chance to control their visual merchandising at a retail store. So when they get the chance to set up their own display case and showcase on the floor, they go nuts. And like I just can't wait to see what people are going to do next. So go ahead.
The love they put in, because I go early, I watch them set up. The love they put into setting that up and twisting
right?
it.
I think of the cupcakes guy. I think of Calipari, boards, skateboards on top of their showcase, displaying it that looks like cupcake tiers inside, that allows them to have that creative genius, right? So it's fun to see the lifestyle of the brand come to life at MJ Unpacked.
Well, when I left the show in Las Vegas, I have stacks of cards, and I went through the last stack of cards from Las Vegas, and I'm going through. It's like, that was good. 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 And I looked, I said, it's not actually that big a stack of cards as I usually take away. Usually I have a really big stack of cards that I go to a trade show, and I go, that's crap. Because you meet a lot of people that are just not, it's not focused to what we want. But I'm still old school. I still do business cards. I'm on the app. I do use the app, but I like the physical business cards. And I found that the quality is of the interactions are really focused, really highly focused on what I'm looking for and what they're looking for.
Yeah, quality over quantity.
Truly what you guys are about. And as I said, the energy was palpable in New York, and it's going to be at the Hilton again, which is very exciting, April 26th to 28th. And if you haven't gotten a ticket, you better get on it, because it is going to go fast. People are really coming from all over the country. We're the ones feeling the calls. So we see firsthand how excited people are. And this is the new frontier. California is kind of not as exciting as it used to be, and it's all about the East Coast. The East Coast will be bigger than California all combined when it's all said and done. And I think people recognize that now, and it's pretty exciting to see that event coming to fruition in the next couple of months.
Give a shameless plug to the halal guys right around the corner from the Hilton.
Right? Yeah, we've got to plug the halal guys. We'll meet you there. At 2 a.m, we'll see you there.
2 a.m, man. That thing is so good.
You're younger than me. You can take that. I go to bed on time.
The energy that you mentioned, Dan, though, yes, it is palatable. And we have, doubled our space for exhibits. We've doubled our conference content. The energy, I was at a networking event last week, and I had 2 different people say, maybe we should start a support group for cannabis, because as the change, right, that third phase that George mentioned comes around, mergers and acquisitions, that's the next 20 years. That's how I see it.
All about M&A.
And the pain and the challenges and all the things we do. Well, MJ Impact's kind of that support group, right? You can come and refill your cup. And that energy that is there on the East Coast, it's unmatched. Like it was West Coast 5, 8, 10 years ago. So that our community needs that.
And
right? Not only do they need
New York is special. New York has a special cachet. And I got to tell you, from a user's perspective, it is liberating to be able to go down the street and smoke marijuana without having to worry about getting a ticket or arrested. It is much more cannabis friendly than any other venue I've ever been to, honestly.
Right. It's the stuff that we talked about around the smoking couch, 30 years ago.
Right.
It's
actually what it would look like. Yeah.
So
we never imagined we'd actually be here. How about that?
I know, it's crazy. And then we get to do it all together with great people who are doing good things for the industry, have businesses that can want to be a part of the growth, right? And the challenges, and we rise together. I always say 3 years, 5 years from now, we're going to stand shoulder to shoulder at another MJ Unpacked and say, remember when?
Yeah.
So it's really about the partnerships and building the community and offering that service that allows people to grow, thrive, even through difficult times.
Right.
Well, having built several trade shows from the ground up in the past 30 years, the best part about that is when you kind of get to that 5, 6, 7, 8 year mark and everything else, and you have those conversations, people are like, yeah, do you remember the first one? There was like 3 people there, right? Like, even though there was like maybe like 2,500 people there, it's like we were there at the beginning, in the dark when everybody was and there was like, kind of like a hidden restaurant that nobody knows about. It's fun how people's, memories kind of distort that to over exaggerate the origin of it. But It is about building a community, and he said the community that we built. It's referring to us. It is a community, but we're building it together, not just with our internal team. We've got retailers that help our team build out all of our conference programs, so it's designed for them. We have retail operators speaking on it. We've got some great operators that are on our advisory board. We just launched our ambassador program, so we've got super fans literally around the country that can go and talk to people in person in just about every city, and tell them why MJ Unpacked is important and why we need to kind of unify at the kind of apex or the vanguard of our industry. And this is it. There'll always be somebody that can make the machine in the corner that goes bing. And manufacturing will always be an important part of the supply chain, but it's way upstream, and there's it's going to be commodity at some point. Really, what's going to be the most important thing that differentiates people is, what is your brand mean and stand for? Do you have a safe educational retail environment that safe not just for your customers but your employees? That's really where the market goes, right? It's going to be about the experience they have both buying the product and using the product.
Correct. I couldn't agree more. And it's always fun to chat with you two. I could go on all afternoon because this is something I'm all passionate about.
when you asked me and Wendy to be on this, and you said, "Oh, we're going to try to keep it to a half hour," I'm like, "Yeah, good luck."
Here I am. I'm impressed. I could talk all day long. You guys are just a ball to talk with. But I will see you April 25th or 24th. We'll be there early, whenever, in New York City at the Hilton. And I couldn't be more excited to be strategic partners with MJ Unpacked, because it is the premier show. It is the premier community, and it's lots of hugs when I get to see everybody.
I'll meet you at the halal truck on the 24th at 2 a.m.
All right, I'll get a falafel.
I'll meet you outside. I know where I'll meet you, Dan. Outside around the corner. I'll see you.
Well, after you guys, I'll come and meet you guys too, and we'll smoke up before we go get the halal guys.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the right step.
It always tastes better after you smoke it up.
George and Wendy, it was great to have you. Thanks for joining us today, and I'll see you in April.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, and CannabisBPO. Thanks for being a great strategic partner.
Absolutely. Until then.